Hey, welcome back to my channel, Jeannie Lynch. So excited to continue the beautiful 4-part mini-series on the Fool's Journey through Tarot. You can learn so much from a Fool. Today we're diving into the Fool as an adolescent. From the Strength card to the Temperance card, uncovering and looking at those archetypes and those experiences so you can apply these lessons and these life experiences to your own life. Are you ready for this? Let's do it. It's coming up next. The Fool, feeling victorious over his enemies, is even feeling arrogant, powerful, and vengeful. There is so much hot passion inside of him that he can barely contain himself. In this state, he comes across a maiden struggling with a lion. Running over to help, he arrives just in time to see her gently but firmly shut the lion's mouth. In fact, the beast, which seemed so wild and fierce a moment ago, was now completely at her command. Amazed, the Fool asks her, "Hey, how did you do that?" With one hand on the lion's mane, she answered, "Willpower. Any beast, no matter how wild, will back down before a superior will." At that moment, the maiden meets the Fool's eyes. Though saintly and young, her look is knowing and filled with such great power. Likewise, she says to him, "There are many unworthy impulses inside of all of us. It is not wrong to have them, Fool, but it is wrong to let them control us. We are, after all, human, not beast, and we command such energy. Use this for higher purposes." His rage in that moment seemed to quiet and even become enlightened, and walked away knowing that it was not only the lion that the Fool was tamed that day by the maiden's pure, innocent strength. After a long and busy lifetime building, creating, hating, fighting, compromising, failing, succeeding, the Fool feels a profound need to retreat. In this archetype, the Fool becomes the Hermit. In a small rustic home deep in the woods, he hides, reading, cleaning, organizing, resting, or just thinking. But every night at dusk, he heads out and travels across the bare landscape. He carries only the staff and his lantern. It is during these restless walks from dusk to dawn, peering and examining whatever takes his fancy, that he sees and realizes all the things he's missed about himself and even in the world. It's as if the secret corners in his head were being slowly illuminated. Corners he never even knew existed. In a way, he's become the Fool again. As in the beginning, he goes wherever he's inspired and whatever leads him. But as the Fool, his staff rests on his shoulders now, carrying unseen his pack. The Fool was like the pack. Whatever it was or could be was wrapped up and unknown. The Hermit's staff leans out before him now, not behind, and he carries the lantern, not the pack. The Hermit is like the lantern, illuminated from within for all he could be. Out from hiding comes the Fool into the sunlight, as if being pulled up from some low, dark point on the wheel. It is time for change. With his staff in hand, he heads back out into the world and expects nothing. But strangely, things seem to be happening to him by the hour as things go by. Good things. Wandering by a water wheel, a woman offers him a drink in a golden chalice. She then urges him to keep the cup, just because she likes him. As he wanders by a windmill, he stops to watch a young man swinging a sword. When he expresses his admiration in the gentleman's weapon, the young man presses it into his hands, insisting that he take it. And finally that day, as he comes upon a rich merchant sitting on a wagon right over one of the wheels, the man hands him a bag of money. "I love giving money away," he explains, "and I decided just randomly that the 10th person who walked by me today would get this money, and you're the 10th. The fool could hardly believe it. He was so surprised. But is he? It is as if everything good that he had ever done for anyone in his life was being paid back to him threefold. All luck on this, his lucky day. The fool at this point is looking for a new path, a new aspiration, and a new inspiration for his life. Sitting at a crossroad of uncertainty, he notices a blind woman listening to two brothers argue over their inheritance. They've come to her for her judgment. One brother has the whole inheritance and the other has nothing. I ask that all of it be given to me, the poor brother demands, not only because I know better what to do with it, but because I will not waste it like he has. But the rich brother also protests. It is rightfully mine, and that's all that should matter, not what I do with it. The woman listens to the two argue, then awards half to the rich brother and the other half to the poor brother. The fool thinks this is only fair, but neither brother is happy. The rich one hates losing half of its wealth, and the poor one feels that he ought to have gotten it all. You were fair, he remarks to the woman after they left. Yes, I was, she answers plainly. With only half of the inheritance, the rich one will stop being so wasteful, and the poor one will have all he needs. Even though they cannot see it, this decision was good for both. The fool thinks of this. A new insight to his own life comes to mind. He realizes that he has spent most of his life achieving worldly possessions, ambitions, and physical goods, while leaving his spiritual self to starve. Primarily because he didn't want to make any sacrifices necessary to feed the spiritual self. Now he sees that it is necessary. The only path that he has not walked, he must walk and regain his balance. Thanking the woman, he heads out with new purpose now. It is time to balance his own inner scales. The day the fool becomes the hanged man. The fool settles beneath the tree, intent on just finding his spiritual self. We'll call it a state of meditation. There he stays for 9 days without eating, barely moving. People pass him by, animals, clouds, and the wind and the rain, the stars, the sun, the moon. On the 9th day, with no consciousness, not a conscious thought at all, he climbs up the branch and dangles himself upside down like a child, giving up for a moment all that he is, that he wants, that he knows, and that he even cares about. Coins fall out of his pockets, and he gazes down at them, seeing them not as money, but as little round bits of metal. Everything suddenly changes perspective. It is as if hanging between the mundane world and the spiritual world, able to see both. He is dazzled by this moment, dreamlike, and yet crystal clear. Connections he never understood are now made. Mysteries are even revealed. But timeless as he in this moment of clarity, he also realizes that it won't last. Very soon he must right himself, and when he does, things will be different. He will have to act on what he's learned now, and for now, whoever, he just hangs, weightless, as if underwater, observing, absorbing, and for the first time, truly seeing. Having left the tree where he hung, the fool moves carefully through a followed field. Head still clearing from all the visions, the air is cold and wintry, and the trees seem bare. Before him he sees the rising sun and a skeleton in black armor mounted on a white horse. He recognizes this as death. As it stops before him, he quickly and humbly asks, "Have I died?" He feels in fact rather empty and desolate, and the skeleton answers, "Yes, fool, in a way. You've sacrificed your old world and your old self. Both are now gone and dead." The fool reflects on that. How sad. Death acknowledges this with a nod. But yes, he says, the only way to be reborn. The new sun is rising, can you see? And it is for you a great time of great transformation. As death rides away, the fool can feel the truth in those words. He too feels like the skeleton, all that has been stripped away. This, he understands, is how all great transformations start, by stripping things to the bone and building fresh upon the bare foundations. And for this, the fool feels a new beginning. Continuing on his spiritual path, the fool starts to wonder, how does he reconcile all these opposites that he's been facing? Material over spiritual, death over birth, and so on. It's at this point where he comes upon a winged figure standing with one foot in a brook and the other one on a rock. This radiant creature is pouring something from 2 flasks. As he draws closer, he sees one is fire and one is water. Are these 2 being blended together? He moves closer. "Excuse me," he asked, "how can you mix fire and water?" The fool finally whispers. Never pausing, the angel answers, "You must first have the right vessel, fool, and even the right proportions." The fool watches with wonder. How can this be done? Can this be done with all opposites? Any opposites, she replies. Fire and water, man and woman, and so on. They all can be harmonized. It's only the lack of will and disbelief that it's all possible, and unity that keeps these opposites opposites. And with that, the fool begins to understand that he is the one who's been keeping the universe at twain, holding life, death, material world, and spiritual world separate in him. The 2 could merge as the vessel and the angel uses to pour the elements, one to the other. All it takes, the fool realizes, is the right proportions and the right vessel. This video is part of a 4-part mini-series, so check out my cards where you will find the rest of this series. Bye now.